I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 4 of The Last of Us series. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to HBO Max, watch that, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from episode 4 of The Last of Us series, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Hello.
Hello.
How we doing?
We're doing good. As the weeks go on, we are just having more and more content that we're recapping. So, this is just becoming, like normal now. I feel like where we talk about, we watch something, then we talk about it together. Before it was once a week, twice a week. You and I are kind of talking every once in a while. Now it's every day.
Yeah, no, right? Isn't it wonderful?
We're always here. But anyway, another really good episode. I have nothing bad to say about this episode. And in fact, I loved, the emotional love story that we got last episode. But this episode felt more like a cinematic from The Last of Us video game than I feel like any episode has before, because we had, multiple scenes that were recreated for live action. We had word for word recreated from live action. And it just, it felt like, a travel episode. This was for all purposes, this was, trying to get from point A to point B and things happen along the way, twists and turns and stuff like that. And I think it was a really good episode. But like I said, it just felt like I was watching a cinematic from an amazing video game at this point. Which, it's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, I really like that. And you know what else I noticed is we didn't have any in this
flashbacks.
Episode. Yeah, flashback. That's the word. Thank you. I was looking for the word flashbacks and I couldn't think of it. But it really showed in the runtime of this episode, because this episode was the shortest runtime. And it is exactly like the 10 to 12 minutes that we've had in most of the other episodes with flashbacks. So that was kind of the only difference in runtime, is we just really didn't have a flashback. But I really do like that we kind of kept it all in the present, and we kept it all for the most part, we kept it all with Joel and Ellie, and we really got to see, kind of them interacting on this journey, which is, the main points of the video game, is we really get to see these two on the journey. And I think that really, it was really well demonstrated in this episode. And I could go on and on, like I always say. There's more that I want to talk about in big takeaways. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from episode 4?
Yeah, just another home run for the show, in my opinion. The show is really just like a masterclass in character development, in world building, set design, all of it. I want to talk about a little bit the introduction of our new adversaries for Joel and Ellie, and but also some new characters we got to see as well. One is Melanie Linsky, who I love her as an actress. I've seen her in lots of projects throughout the years, and I think she's always been great. But her as Kathleen is kind of like the leader of these kind of just like normal people who it seems like they took over kind of like a Fedra QZ, like they just they got rid of Fedra altogether, and now it's their town, right? So
Right.
you kind of see that as like a kind of a hurdle for Joel and Ellie to kind of get through. Of course, I believe they're in Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. But she's got like this kind of innocent nature about her, but at the same time, she's willing to do some pretty like brutal shit. This, like obviously we see it in the one scene there where she just offs the doctor that apparently was the one who also delivered her when she was born. So that adds like a little layer of like kind of coldness to her character, which I think is really great. But I think it coming from an actress like her just kind of like amplifies it even more, because you wouldn't expect it from her just based on the role she's seen her in the past. But when she has her kind of like her military kind of like advisor, I guess, like her number two in command, Harry, who's played by the same man who voiced Tommy in the original Last of Us game, which I think is a cool
Oh,
little
no
nod. Yeah,
way.
it's a nod to the original game. So I love that we're gonna see like the original voice actors sprinkled into roles here or throughout the course of the series. So
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing the Troy Baker cameo, of course, and of course I think Ashley Johnson is the name of the person who voiced Ellie. I'm hoping I'm not getting her name wrong, but of course, then we see Marlene earlier in the premiere, who was also the same actress who played her in the game as well. So that was pretty cool that got to be a casting. But yeah, kind of getting to see this new side of the show because this, at the end of the day, I didn't. When the show first came out, there was a lot of Walking Dead comparisons, of course. We were thinking like, oh, hey, it's like a kind of like a post-apocalyptic zombie type show. But to me, it's not really a zombie show at all. It's a survivalist show where the clickers and everything like that are just they're a part of the world, but they're not like the main focus of it. Like I don't think we saw any in this episode, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Like this is purely a human story set in a world where these kind of fungal and infected monsters are kind of taking over, but that's not like the main point of like the story. Like obviously in the game, you have to fill in a lot of that action points for a satisfying gaming experience, but at the end of the day, the core of the story is this story about two people trying to make it from one place to another safely in this very, very dangerous world and looking out for each other. And that's the real I think that's where this episode really kind of emphasizes that the most, and I think it does a really great job of that. And yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it all boils down to this is a road trip.
Yeah, yeah,
But no, I totally agree with you. I as soon as she shot the doctor, I was like, holy shit! Like
yeah,
she
yeah.
she is definitely going to be someone that's going to give Joel and Ellie some trouble to get out of this town. Like
Oh, for sure.
she is not to be messed with. She's not gonna like roll over for anything. I mean, she sticks up for her people. Like, and the only reason she did that was because that the doctor she had no use for the doctor anymore. Like,
Right, exactly.
if the guy that Joel had shot had just been like a flesh wound or something, they just needed to do surgery. Then yeah, she wouldn't have shot the doctor. She would have like got him to dig the bullets out or something. But
Right, exactly.
holy crap, man! Yeah,
Fascinating. Great performance by Melon. I'm excited for this to kind of be like a kind of like Andor in my opinion. This felt like the first of like an episode arc. So like the fact it's going to continue on to next week, or I guess this week because it's coming out early this week, which is pretty great. So it's just like a cool little arc that's going to take place within 1 week and then continue on, of course, later on in the series as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to kind of the ending and stuff like that, but I just love the way that this episode ended on that cliffhanger, and it just makes you like, not. I mean, this series we're 4 episodes in, and every episode has been a home run, but to also add on top of that to give you that oh shit, I need to see the next episode now type of thing, like end on a cliffhanger is just that much more. Adding to the episode and the directing and stuff that has really gone into making these episodes great, but making them great as a whole and individually type of thing where you are just like, I cannot wait to see what happens next type of thing. And I think it just really goes to show how much care and love has gone into the creating of this series in general. So
yeah.
You can see it everywhere, basically. But Rico, you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to kick us off with big takeaways. And it's to no surprise at this. I could have kind of started off with this just because I had already said this episode reminded me the most of like kind of playing the video game and stuff. And it's really, we got some really classic Joel and Ellie banter.
That is so goddamn stupid.
You laughed, motherfucker.
I didn't laugh.
Yes, you did.
Jesus, I'm losing it.
You're losing it big time.
I loved that. Just like the back and forth, the smart ass comments, and even like the pun jokes.
No pun intended. Volume 2 by Will Livingston. Volume 2. Look, you get it?
The name of it was also from the game, right? It's
that's all. A lot of the dialogue was ripped directly from the game. which was
I
pretty
love
great.
the truck dialogue. Where
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
got the magazine.
yeah.
That is straight out of the game too. I mean, the magazine was called something different, but I've seen videos where they put like side by side that scene and the video game scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do
it's
those every week. Those was
yeah,
pretty cool.
completely lined up. I thought that was perfect. No pun intended, volume 2, but TOO. Like everything was great. And I love just kind of seeing that, you know, Joel and Ellie relationship evolve. And this is the type of episode where we really can enjoy that. Like a lot of stuff is happening, but like that couldn't have fit into any of the other episodes so far. Basically, we had like little things every once in a while, but this episode I feel like really focused on that relationship and you know that banter and their two characters really starting to kind of get to know each other type of thing. And I really appreciated that, and that is I mean that's a really big part of the game is you have those two characters for the entire game. But yeah, I mean that was my biggest takeaway from this entire episode was just I really enjoyed the back and forth with Joel and Ellie. I really enjoyed. Obviously, I'm always going to really enjoy when we have the recreation, the live action recreation of scenes from the video game itself, and just yeah, I mean I just really I can't say enough how much I just really enjoyed seeing their relationship starting to develop and starting to kind of break through with these two characters. But Rico, what were some of your takeaways from this episode?
Yeah, this was some of the easily some of the best character work between Joel and Ellie yet. Um, Obviously, the end of the last episode was kind of like the kickstart of like, okay, this is the beginning of their real journey now. And of course, like this episode, just we're right off and running. We're right in the middle of them having their fun little banter moments as well. But there's also so many great details in the show, like as far as like the world building and stuff like that. When it comes to either just like the establishing shots when they're driving, so where
Oh
you're
yeah,
seeing like just how, like, overgrown the world is throughout time, of course, like, everything's just covered in plants and spores and stuff like that. But there's also, like, off in the distance, there's, like, these train tracks where trains are off derailed, and you're just wondering, like, what the hell happened here at some point, but there's so many things that kinda tell a story without having to be directly told to your face, right? Um, but then also, like, there's these little kind of, like, exchanges in the dialogue that help build the world too, like, of course, the way that the siphon gas and how gas works now because it's all watered down.
yeah,
And so, like, the gas can only get them so far now, whether as opposed, back in, the current days, it would have been, getting them, like, 10 hours of driving, but now it gets them probably, like, 1 to 2 at best. Um, and then even the stuff like going them camping out into the forest, and it's not that having to worry about the infected because it's like, even Joel says, like, the infected, like, the fungus isn't that smart. Like, they know things about it still, but they're still, they gotta worry about people. Like I said, that's where we get introduced to the threat of people, right?
right.
Um, but also just like the stuff like when they get attacked when they first get into the city and there's the whole trap, which again, that whole sequence is taken directly from the game where they crash right there in the truck. And even the way that the show portrays it, it felt like one of those like the cinematic that transitions right into the gameplay. Like, okay, get out of the car and now we're in the gameplay and stuff like
Yeah,
that. That's what it felt like to me. Um, and then of course, like just like the single shots that Joel was taking with the rifle were all just felt very game like. Um, but there's a moment in there where Joel gets kind of, blindsided by somebody else because his hearings has gone bad, and we've seen the details of his bad ear in the past where in the first episode when he's sleeping, Tess has to turn him to one side because he doesn't feel comfortable sleeping on one side until she's there. And then, of course, him, of course, laying down the glass at the end of the episode and that not helping him at all because he ends up turning over. Uh but I just love that these little details that they're showing on early, and then of course as the show progresses, you're seeing this detail build into something that has like ramifications for the character, and it's just like, damn, this is so well done. Um, but again, going back to Ellie having to shoot that guy, but which is one thing they kind of deviated from the game, where in the games she kills that guy, and that's kind of it. And he has to kind of deal with the fallout of that. But, and he kinda gets upset with her a little bit too in the game, which is kinda funny, but in here, they kinda turn it. They use it where she kinda wounds him, and then she kinda takes it like that pressure off of her, tells her to go into the wall, and he finishes the job. Um, and it kind of uses it as a way to kind of help comfort her, and telling her that's not fair, that she has to be in these kind of situations, stuff like that. So I think that was a kind of cool deviation from the game to kind of make it less cold like it is in the game, and more like a chance for them to use it as an emotional moment between the two characters.
Mm,
Which leads to a great moment to them where he teaches her how to hold a gun,
yeah.
and all of that, which I thought was really great. Uh, and all of that kind of culminates in this great moment at the end when they're sleeping in the apartment complex, and she finally lets out one of those stupid jokes, like one of those pun jokes, and finally he just like breaks out in laughter, and it's one of like it's easily the sweetest moment between those two yet, because they both are laughing and they're sharing this moment together, and then of course it's abruptly ended right after that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the the acting from Pedro Pascal in this series is, I feel like, some of his best work so far. He's incredible in a lot of stuff he's in, but I think this is really the role that he's gotten to really shine his talents in the best.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, look, to be able to, and I said this last episode when we were recapping and we were talking about Bill and Frank, to be able to see a progression between two characters in a small amount of time. Like when we're talking about Bill and Frank, we were talking like maybe an hour. We're talking about like the progression with Joel and Ellie. This is the first episode where we, like you said, we really had that breakthrough where you could really see a difference between you're just cargo to,
Yeah.
he's actually starting to let his walls down, and they're actually starting to,
Yeah. The way he resists the jokes early
right.
on, and even though he, like, you can tell, like, there's the old Joel that wants to break out and laugh at them, but he's got to be that guy who had to do bad things. And of course, we learned a lot about him and Tommy's past, stuff like that. We learned there's a lot of them learning about each other's past in this too, which is again grows
Yeah.
that bond between them even more. So like, yeah, there's just so many great dialogue moments in the show that the writing is so good. Uh, but yeah, just like even stuff like that, it's just like, yeah, you can't help but just be like, damn, it's so love that. Love
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah, every part of this episode, I think was great, and yeah, I can't wait until Friday now. Like I
I know,
can't wait.
right? It's like a little treat. We get it early.
I know, I know, I know. But anyway, you want to go to some predictions?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, why don't you kick us off for predictions?
All right, I want to go back into to Ellie a little bit. So we were talking about earlier how they kind of use this episode to kind of throw back into their stories a little bit. Joel talks about the stuff that him and Tommy had to get into, not just for the apocalypse, but also like what they got into in the life afterwards as well. Of course, Tommy going into the Fireflies and then leaving the Fireflies is the way he's always done and all
Yeah,
that, which kind of leads into where they are now. But after the moment where Ellie has to shoot that guy, and Joel he really just feel bad for her that she even has to, like, you just think it's not fair to you have to be
right.
having to do this stuff. But then she tells him, like, it's not the first time I've had to do it. So of course we're always getting little tidbits of like what her personality is like, which obviously leads to the question of like, what the hell did she go through leading up to the point where we met her? And I feel like, of course, we're building right up to that. I feel like either the next episode or maybe after they wrap up everything with our other storyline, the one after that could possibly be the one where we see her backstory where
Yeah.
Storm Reed is supposed to play the character Riley, who's really big in Ellie's backstory as well, that leading up to when she met Joel. So seeing all that play out is going to be very, I'm sure, heartbreaking. Um, but man, I gave praise to Pedro Pascal earlier, but Bella Ramsey is proving every single week how perfect she is as Ellie, and I think this was one of the best ones yet, because there's probably more lines I've heard directly referenced from the game of Ellie than she probably had in the past, and she's just nailing it every single time, and the dynamic between these two is perfect. Um, but on top of that, also just kind of finishing up just kind of what I'm thinking is like a 2-episode arc with Kathleen and Perry, and now we've at the end of the episode, what we're talking about Pedro's, or no, sorry, Joel's hearing problems when he's sleeping. He gets waken up with a gun in his face, and it's it's a little boy just pointing a gun right at him, and of course, Ellie is like, Joel, wake up, and she's got a gun pointed at him, and it's Henry and Sam, the people we were being mentioned throughout the episode by Kathleen. They were looking for them, so obviously these two pairings meeting up is something the fans from the game know very well, and I'm sure it's something everyone's looking forward to seeing, and I can't wait to see it as well. So getting to see those characters interact will be fun, and seeing bloaters will be very, very interesting. I just like that we're gonna see like another step up in the monster category here, so that's also gonna be very, very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, basically for my prediction, I'm kind of just going off of pretty much the last thing that you were just talking about, where I mean, obviously when we have that kind of an ending for an episode, we have to pick back up right there again, or at least hopefully
yeah.
in that episode we will,
Yeah.
whether we start with a flashback and then get back up into that. But
The first cliffhanger of the show, I think. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I think this is going to turn into a Joel and Ellie team up with Henry and Sam to try to get them out of the city type of thing. Like I think that's going to be, the mission, I guess, of the next episode is, okay, we're not going to shoot you if you get us out of the city. Like, like something like that. Like I think it's going to be something like that. Because what I'm wondering is, so during the episode, we got little, tidbits of how Kathleen was like looking for Henry and Sam. And we find like their stash, like where they were staying, because we see all these cans of food that were empty and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm wondering, number one, are her people just really bad at finding people? Because they're in the city and they didn't find Joel and Ellie either.
Yeah.
But Henry and Sam were able to find Joel and Ellie in this, like, in a 8-hour time span when they were asleep type of thing.
Pretty much instantly.
I'm wondering if, it wasn't even the fact that Joel didn't hear the broken glass cracking and stuff like that. I'm wondering if maybe they were somehow in like air ducts or something like that in the hotel or in the apartment building, I guess not hotel, but in the apartment building or something, so that they were able to get into the different rooms without having to go through the front door or whatever door that they were in type of thing to that area.
There's on the other side of them already. So you're kind of wondering, that's probably what they're going to pick up was like, how'd you get around that? And then of course, I think that's going to be very interesting to see how they explain that.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm thinking is maybe there's a series of, tunnels and secret passageways that they can get through to at least, so part of it, it's like Henry and Sam leading them around to kind of make it to a different area. And then at a certain point, Joel has to kick in and be like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Stay low, stay fast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's going to be like almost that give and take dynamic where like Henry and Sam have already kind of been in this area. So they're going to show them how to get to a certain point. And then when they can't get to past a certain point, it's going to have to be Joel that takes over type of thing to lead them the rest of the way out. I think it's I mean, I'm really excited. I'm here for it. I'm really excited to see the next episode, especially with the cliffhanger. Like you said, I think this was the first time there was like a cliffhanger, and now, that's all I can think about. Like,
it would be funny if you were kind of talking about like if they're in like the ducks or whatever, like sneaking around there, like John McClane and Die Hard, just kind of like with a lighter, like there's people here.
That's all. That's what I can think of. And then the other thing is like, what if they do have to somehow use the infected as a distraction? Like there's other parts.
That's
like
what I'm wondering.
Things that
there's tease in this episode. Like there's something going on here, and Kathleen just block off the building.
Right.
You're like
the ground. Okay, the whole ground.
Yeah, you're like okay,
this?
Just block it off. You don't want to do something about that now. It seems kind of urgent.
Yeah. It was just the look on the guy's face when she said that. It was like,
Perry's like, oh god.
But anyway, like we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 4? And how do you think we're going to pick back up after this cliffhanger? And how are we going to get these people out of the city? We don't know. I cannot wait until Friday to see this new episode and to get some sort of resolve for this. This sounds like a really cool arc, and I'm really excited to see this. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.